Now, looking at this, and you see this as a matter of success, there's a legacy of this. Because in the United States, you had other claimants for historical injustices coming forth and saying, we want to go ahead and use the same model. And one of the things that I find interesting is that you had the same set of lawyers that went ahead and represented the claimants in the Holocaust restitution litigation, going ahead and filing these lawsuits. So one lawsuit that was interesting, that was filed in California, was against the descendants of the Armenian genocide. Individuals who are now in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, whose grandparents bought insurance policies, in Turkey, and then these policies were not paid. The major defendant here was New York Life Insurance Company. They went ahead and admitted that these policies were not paid, and in fact, they settled for $15 million. Okay? Now what you have is litigation against Japan, right, which has been in sort of historical amnesia, and by American POWs and by civilians from Japan going against the Japanese companies. And this litigation is actually very similar to the litigation against the German companies. It failed completely. One of the major reasons that it failed completely is that the Japanese companies refused to recognize the litigation, and the Japanese government refused to get involved at all. So even though you have similar results and the litigation fails, at least in the first instance with regard to that against the German companies, the companies continue negotiations. Here, they completely ignore this. And in fact, Eisenstadt made a sort of one of his last comments before he ended working for the Clinton administration, saying that was one of his biggest disappointments was the fact that he could not get the Japanese to come to the table. And so you would think that these are American POWs, our greatest generation. Colin Powell as being the Secretary of State. You can see the momentum for it. They were not successful at all. There was litigation by individuals from the Herero genocide, going back to Southwest Africa at the beginning of the century. That litigation was also unsuccessful. Litigation against multinational companies that did business in South Africa from apartheid. That so far has been unsuccessful. And then last but not least, in the United States, for African American reparations. This is the lawsuit that Professor Ogilvy was involved in. And last year in January, when those lawsuits were consolidated, these were all against various companies, those were also dismissed.